Welcome, everybody. The agenda basically looking at requirements for TrustMark and MCS, how they operate, what their part in the retrofit sort of environment is, what part they play, how they relate to PAS 2035, and the kind of protections and guarantees that come with registration with TrustMark and certification through MCS. So, a quick overview of TrustMark. Basically, the TrustMark is there to ensure that any businesses working in homes meet a high standard of competence, customer service, and have a good quality business practice. They basically cover all sorts of different trades and services for people working in homes, installations, repair work, everything else. And I've also, when following the Each Home Counts report in 2016, which was a report that looked into the quality of retrofit work. Basically, there was a call for a quality mark around retrofit, and the government decided that TrustMark, who already existed at that time, would be that act as the quality mark. So also, they promote high standards, conduct regular audits to ensure compliance. They provide kind of customer protection with insurance-backed guarantees and dispute resolution if something goes wrong with a particular job. And the idea is that they, of course, provide assurance to customers, to homeowners about the whole kind of quality of an installation and also the process should there be any kind of issues. So the point about them is they're trying to enforce a kind of transparency through their code of conduct. On the right there is just making the points there for government-funded retrofit schemes such as the Warm Homes Local Grant and the Warm Homes Social Housing Fund. It's mandatory to comply with PAS 2035, which is the publicly available specification for domestic retrofit. And part of that is that TrustMark, the whole process requires that different roles within that process are registered with TrustMark, and also that all the information about the particular retrofit project, the kind of medium-term retrofit plan, and all the other kind of key documents. There's a list of those as part of PAS 2035. They are lodged on the TrustMark data warehouse. So it acts as a sort of repository for the data around retrofit projects. TrustMark is also recognised kind of brand around that issue for quality. There is also support for the UK's net zero carbon goals through quality retrofits. So the idea is obviously to try and maximise not only the quality of the work, but the performance of the retrofit works in order that the carbon goals of reaching net zero can be achieved. So MCS. The overview of MCS, Micro Generation Certification Scheme, its purpose is to ensure that small-scale renewable technology installations such as solar PV, photovoltaic panels, and heat pumps, so air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps. Also, I think electricity storage batteries also can be installed in a high-quality, safe and reliable way. So MCS certifies installers and products. So for this sort of area of technologies, when we're talking about retrofit for a house, it might well be fabric measures, so measures to improve the performance of walls, roofs, floors, windows and doors. And then you might be looking at changing the heating system and installing renewables. And that's where the MCS accredited installer certification certification comes in. So in terms of the importance of MCS from a consumer perspective, it's the idea of this certification and the mark of MCS. It's a little bit like Corgi was gas safe now. It builds consumer confidence that the installers are qualified and certified for the installation work, provided for access to government incentives like smart export guarantee. So if you're going to be using, generating power and exporting to the grid, in order to claim back any funds for that, you need to prove that the installation has been done with an MCS installer. It enhances market competitiveness for certified businesses. So it will If there's an absolute requirement for this, then you obviously have to then require the certification to be part of that sector. Yeah, so move on. So how to register. So businesses register through approved scheme providers, and there are a list of those on the TrustMark website. Those scheme providers assess compliance with TrustMark's framework operating requirements, code of conduct, and a customer charter. For installer organizations who are working on, say, ECO, Energy Company Obligation, ECO 4 is the scheme that's out at the moment, or government-funded capital schemes, registration is typically achieved via an existing PAS 2030 certification body or a renewable or low carbon UCAS accredited certification body. So there's quite a few of these, the usual suspects that kind of do training and certification, and also quite a few of the trade bodies as well for different trades. And some of those as well have got the UCAS accreditation as a certification body. And that's something that you can check on the UCAS website. So businesses engaged in the wider repair, maintenance and home improvement activities can register through a suitable trade association. Retrofit assessors and coordinators, they are the kind of part of the official roles for PAS 2035, so that's retrofit coordinators, retrofit assessors. They can register with TrustMark individually or through an approved retrofit assessor or retrofit coordinator scheme provider. There's lots of information on the TrustMark website about this, so this is giving you a kind of overview about what you can find where. So these are some of the documents I just mentioned: the charter, the customer charter, code of conduct, and the framework operating requirements, which apply to their scheme providers. Now, scheme providers, the idea is that TrustMark doesn't train and certify anybody themselves. They have other they kind of approve that other businesses, other organizations can do that training and registration up to their required standards. So that is the kind of model that they're working on. So that, once that's happened, they become an approved scheme provider to TrustMark. So for different roles and responsibilities, you would go to different scheme providers for your training and accreditation. So just a little bit about TrustMark and PAS 2035. So as I mentioned previously, PAS 2035 is a relatively new retrofit standard. It first came out in 2019. There were several updates on that original standard, the last one being here. This is the last version of the 2019 standard. It's a very long-winded title. Right now we're in what's called a transition period because a new version of PAS 2035 was issued in 2023. There was an 18-month transition period running through 2024, and that finishes at the 30th of March 2025 when the earlier version of PAS will be withdrawn, and only the 2023 version can be used on new retrofit projects. Now, this transition period, it's on the TrustMark website, it is a little bit ambiguous, but my understanding used to be that whatever you could start with either of these versions of PAS in this interim period, but whatever you started with, you had to continue and finish with. You couldn't change from one to another midway through. And if you start with PAS 2035 2019, you have to use installers who are certified to PAS 2030 2019 on that project. You can't mix 2019 and 2023 certifications across the projects. So if you choose to run a project with a 2019 version, then the installers must be 2019 certified as well. Now, on the website at the moment, it's stating that only retrofit assessments dated before the 29th of March, on or before the 29th of March, can be lodged, and only projects whose retrofit measures have been handed over before the 29th of March can be lodged as well. Now, that's implying that projects must be completed, in effect. Any projects, utilizing the earlier version of PAS need to be completed by the 29th of March this year. I have asked for clarification about that, but that is what it's saying on the TrustMark website at the moment on their retrofit portal. So the PAS 2035 requirements include retrofit coordination, which is carried out by a retrofit coordinator. That is an official qualification within the PAS 2035 standard. And the retrofit coordinator basically is project managing from as early as possible, project inception through to handover and delivery. There's a dwelling assessment, including ventilation assessment. That's what we would call a retrofit assessment. The improvement options evaluation, which is looking at the different measures, the different options for retrofit measures, and a medium-term improvement plan. Is the idea of that is to give a whole house complete retrofit plan, of which, if you're retrofitting in installments with limited budget, it gives you a kind of process to follow, so that you don't do a set of works which then impede future works. Retrofit design needs to be, again, organised by the retrofit coordinator with someone who has the qualifications to be able to carry out this retrofit design work. Monitoring and evaluation at the end of the installation of the measures. That is obviously to find out if the installation work is performing as it was designed, and that the occupant of the property is happy with the systems and the ventilation, the heating controls, the general performance of the retrofit or the retrofitted home. And then any retrofit advice that is required, whether it's within the team or whether it's to a resident or both. So these are some of the requirements included in this document on the right here. This can be downloaded from the BSI website as well. There's no charge for that. So PAS basically offers energy retrofit specification for domestic buildings, best practice guidance, and TrustMark with covering areas such as the lodgement of information in their retrofit portal, consumer protection, audits of works, and compliance and reporting processes. So the retrofit coordinator will take responsibility for collecting all the right documentation throughout the process, and that can include certifications for installers, for information about measures being installed, the retrofit design, the medium-term improvement plan. All of those things would be uploaded or lodged with the data warehouse through the retrofit portal by the retrofit coordinator. So just thinking about the financial protection which comes with this TrustMark registration of these projects and people operating under PAS 2035. So to comply with TrustMark's frame operating requirements, registered businesses are expected to provide a minimum of 2 years financial protection for completed works covering products and workmanship. And the aim of the financial protection mechanism is to cover the consumer against certain risks, i.e. the business was to cease trading. The work under government capital funded or energy supplier obligation schemes, such as we said, social housing fund, eco, or local grants, has specific requirements for the financial protection that is needed. TrustMark approved 2-year policies are not currently mandatory, but TrustMark recommends that they're adopted to assist with the compliance and confidence in meeting elements of the outline of the framework operating requirements. So again, in terms of the financial protection, the energy supplier funded measures covered. So the measure types on the left there. So we got boiler installation, loft insulation, storage, electrical storage heating, controls, microgeneration, glazing, flat roof insulation, draft proofing. And on the right there, room and roof insulation, underfloor, cavity wall, external wall, internal wall, and park home insulation as well. So those measures on the left, it's recommended have a 2-year financial protection compliant with the TrustMark framework operating requirements as a minimum. And those measures on the right, the insulation measures, approve a 25-year financial protection Those normally come, I think, with standard guarantees for materials. If systems are being installed with trained operators or trained installers for those particular systems, that is quite normal. So moving on to MCS. So just looking at a few of the steps for becoming MCS certified. So learn the standards for your technology. So the relevant standards for solar panels and heat pumps, and ensure that your work aligns with those guidelines. Create a quality management system to document your process, covering installation, commissioning, and customer service. Then apply to one of the MCS approved certification bodies. A couple mentioned there, NAPIT, NIC, EIC, to assess your business and guide you through the process. Pass office-based and on-site audits to demonstrate technical competence and compliance with MCS standards. And once approved, you'll be registered with MCS and listed on the MCS database. Following that, they will be doing regular audits and provide updates for practices to stay aligned with evolving standards. So once you're in that position, it is a case of obviously learning what the requirements are and following those to basically comply with and become a sort of company which meets all those different sort of quality standards, both in terms of the installation work, but also your business processes in terms of having a standard way to deliver your service to the customer. And, as with TrustMark mentioned previously, there's also that idea very much that you are all about customer service. So where things go wrong, there's very much a kind of transparent process for dealing with it. So just running through these individually. So when in step one, we're talking about familiarizing yourself with the standards. So MCS certified installers are assessed to MCS 0011 standard. There's then the specific technical standard for chosen technology which you are wanting to become certified to. Ensure that you understand these standards and can show your company's compliance. It is important to familiarize yourself with the appropriate standards. Obviously, it might be something that you're familiar with anyway in terms of maybe some of the work that you're already doing, but actually having the documents and reading the detailed small print about those standards is important, and it is something that is part and parcel of the certification process. So step two is demonstrating competence. So that's showing how your company employs skilled, competent, and experienced individuals for all required activities. And that's really talking about qualifications for people, experience. Maybe some people have got multiple qualifications that relate to installation of different systems, and it depends on the role of people within the company. But yeah, it's obviously trying to provide an auditable trail where the MCS can see that you have been serious about all the different individuals in the company, their roles, their abilities, their skills, etc. So the competency criteria, so this refer to MCS 025 standard for full details on joining and maintaining compliance with the scheme. So yeah, MCS has outlined full competency criteria in the MCS 025 standard. And that's all available on their website. So step three is committing to demonstrating quality. To demonstrate the operation of a quality management system, that was QMS referred to in a couple of slides earlier. So common misconception that a QMS must be long and complicated and that you need to pay for software service. It's very much a common misconception. It might be something that, maybe a larger electrical installation company, for instance, might already have quality management systems in place for other sort of company standards, but it doesn't need to be that. The QMS needs to fit the purpose and be proportionate to the size of your business and provide evidence of how you manage the quality of your installations. So step four, commitment to customer care. So we've got joining a customer code. This must be approved by the Chartered Trading Standards Institute. And there are 2 customer codes available to join in relation to MCS, those 2 there. In terms of choosing a customer code, it's obviously a case of subscribing to the one that suits your business best. Important to consider both options to determine the best fit, and comparing costs and onboarding timelines and such like. Being a member of a customer code shows that you are committed to complying with high standard of consumer service and protection. So applying to a certification body, this will ensure that your renewable technology installation meets the MCS standards, and the certification body will assess your company practices and inspect a nominated installation site. Choosing the certification body depends on your needs, the services they offer, and their ability to certify your technologies and any existing relationships, and they will guide you through the certification process. So yeah, I was going to mention it's not their business to make this as complicated as possible. They're very much in the business of explaining what is required and what it is that they're interested in seeing and understanding. So they want you as a business that's applying for certification or wanting to be certified to understand what is required of that, so that people don't waste their time or money or both in getting other certain things in place which are completely irrelevant. So just a quick overview of the benefits of TrustMark. So it is the only government endorsed quality mark, and it ensures that businesses meet its rigorous standards for technical competence, customer service, and ethical trading practices. Businesses need to demonstrate consistent compliance with TrustMark standards and the comprehensive consumer protection. So all these things help to enhance the level of trust from the consumer perspective. And this very much is following on from, as I said, the initial Each Home Counts report, or what was called the Bonfield report, initially back in 2016, after several failed retrofit projects, which caused huge disruption to residents. And they really wanted to create, as a sort of recommendation from that report, this idea that the protection of the consumer and of the landlord, the owner of the building, from the perspective of their investment in that building, needed to be protected through the retrofit, through the PAS 2035 process and the TrustMark quality mark. So that was how these different marks came about. The TrustMark in terms of the quality of the installation, and PAS 2035 as a quality methodology. So yeah, it's all about enhancing consumer confidence in the revised retrofit agenda since those early CESP and CERT projects, where we did have quite a few of them go badly wrong for various reasons. That knocks consumer confidence in terms of what was promised and what actually happened. And in order to rebuild that confidence and attempt to be able to roll out large-scale retrofit projects, we do need to be kind of able to demonstrate through the use of the TrustMark logo and the MCS logo and complying with the requirements of those particular organizations in terms of certification and registration, that actually the businesses are concerned with the quality of their work and customer service. Not to say that things won't go wrong, I mean they do, but there is a process for dealing with that as well. It's not just a phone went dead and couldn't get hold of anybody and that was that. There is a kind of other guarantee and insurance process, and a kind of default step-by-step process takes over. So in terms of that stronger reputation, as I was mentioning, consumers can feel more secure about the works and about the having the businesses in their home and doing those works to their home, that they've been vetted by an independent organisation which adhere to high industry standards. On the TrustMark website, there are searchable databases if you're looking for, or customers are looking for, registered businesses, PAS 2030 installers, PAS 2035 retrofit coordinators or retrofit assessors are available on there. Being part of the directory from the business perspective increases contractors' exposure to potential clients who obviously would regard certification and trustworthiness through the listing on that website. So just with regard to the future of TrustMark aligns with PAS 2035 to promote energy efficient retrofits and low carbon solutions. And obviously that's part of the net zero 2050 target for the UK as a whole. The retrofit portal, part of the TrustMark service, supports lodgement, compliance tracking, as I've mentioned, having the right certifications and documents in place for the measures being installed, and quality assurance using cutting edge analytics and various tools. And then it's supporting large scale projects, so essential for major government schemes. So Warm Homes Local Grant, Warm Homes Social Housing Fund. So these big government schemes, and we've had hundreds of millions of pounds that's being released over the last few years through these various government schemes. And these are all about scale retrofit programs around the country with different social landlords. So that's helping contractors grow their businesses as well through opportunities in these publicly funded projects. So some of the benefits from the MCS perspective, and as I mentioned before, MCS does tie in with HAS 2035 as well. So in terms of quality assurance, MCS ensures that renewable energy systems meet rigorous safety, reliability and performance standards. In terms of consumer confidence, it provides assurance that installations comply with the industry best practices. It gives you access to government incentives. So as I mentioned, only MCS certified installers can offer schemes like the Smart Export Guarantee. And as I mentioned before, only MCS installers can work on projects where HAS 2035 is being utilised as part of a major, government public funded retrofit programme. And also it's supporting the wider sustainability ambitions. So certification will drive adoption of renewable technologies and help the UK meet its net zero carbon goals. So from the installer focused perspective, so just on the left hand side there's a list of the perceived benefits and a short description. So we've got simplified compliance processes, reduced paperwork focus, tailored compliance through risk-based assessments, reinforced relationships with certification bodies, and a flexible consumer code membership. I won't read out all the descriptions. As well as we said earlier, you all get a copy of this presentation through an email after the session. In terms of the growth of MCS and its successful reach, so the network has over 5,100 certified installers and growing. The number of installations, 244,000 installations in 2023. And we do have stronger growth in solar PV, certainly with battery storage and heat pumps as well. Solar PV principally because the costs have dropped significantly, and also because it's now battery storage, solar PV and heat pumps are all eligible through the government schemes as well now. In terms of heat pump growth, MCS installers are responsible for over 52,000 installations, and that was up 30% on 2023 numbers. As I mentioned just a second ago, battery storage, there's been a big growth in the installation of battery storage systems, particularly in parallel with solar PV and heat pumps. So you get a much more flexible system where you're able to, maybe during the day in the sort of sunnier months, you don't necessarily need to use the electricity, but you can store it and then use it in the evening. And obviously your heat pump is electrically powered, and with its coefficient of performance of 3, maybe 4 to 1, depending, then you are getting a lot more efficiency from the solar PV systems in terms of not importing from the grid and obviously using zero carbon electricity generation. There has been a reworking of the scheme just recently. So there's been a focus on delivered quality, reduced administrative burdens, prioritising real-world results, strengthening of consumer protection, improved access for installers, and improved quality focus and adaptation for emerging technologies. And again, this is recognising, as I mentioned, newer technologies such as battery storage and some hybrid systems in terms of where you have hybrid heating systems. So you can have gas heat pump systems as well now, depending on what the installation circumstances are and obviously the suitability of different systems for different circumstances. But there are lots and lots of different ways that these systems can be combined depending on the circumstances. And just a little bit of further resources through Rise. So we've got other masterclasses on the website there that may be of use, may be of interest, and other contracting options there, supply chain support, introduction to PAS 2035 in specific sense. So that gives you a bit more detail about the actual, what's covered in PAS 2035, what it really looks at in terms of the risks around retrofit and how to manage them. And then on the right there, there's a few of the toolkits available with a supply chain focus, again, which may be of use. And I think it's in there. And then here's some information about, there we go. So upcoming events. Fishwick is one of the retrofit case studies around what happens when retrofit can go wrong, and lots of lessons learned there, and really looking at how things conspired to create quite a disaster. I think there was between 300 and 400 homes retrofitted in Preston, and the work was rushed at the end of a funding window. Little or no design was done, and it relied upon installers who were slightly making it up as they were going along, and then that company went out of business. There was no comeback in terms of trying to get the work redone, etc., etc. So it was one of the key projects which was very influential on the commissioning of the Each Home Counts report, and some more information about the CPD accredited resident engagement bootcamp that's coming up as well. Another very important part of the retrofit picture is the resident engagement. And I think that's it.